Hi, Barry.
There we go. So anyways, today is May 18th. We're here Thursday, and our meeting for the Cannabis Advisory Commission was due to start at 1 o'clock. We're going to wait a few additional minutes because unfortunately we do not have a quorum at this point. There are only 3 individuals here at the moment. Myself, Joe Plandowski, and Abby DiMolina. So unfortunately, there are no actions we can really take with our agenda. But one thing I'd like to at least get you on board with, if you looked at the agenda on page 3, I did a listing of towns with multiple cannabis dispensaries. And again, it's by no means a complete list. And I actually the way this list worked out was based upon how distant they were from Nantucket. That was just the easiest way to find things. Where I'm trying to head to with this was town administration had requested that our committee try to work with Jericho. He was having some struggles with trying to figure out how to do the municipal, our local municipal reporting for cannabis related expenditures that were going on. And it was finding that was a little bit of a challenge because he wasn't always getting good feedback for things. And then again, wasn't quite sure how the state wanted it reported out. So what I was going to do was assign all of you a little homework assignment to at least pick up 2 towns, probably start with town administration and see if they have a separate cannabis advisory committee or who is the person in charge of that. And then see what kind of reporting mechanisms they have. I was hoping to try to catch up to Jericho. I was hoping he might be on the meeting today to get a little bit more detail on exactly where he's at and what's going on with it, but haven't heard anything at the moment. So I'll touch base with him once I get back on island. Right now, I'm over in good old lovely Hyannis at the moment. Yay. And then what I might do is I'll probably do this as a separate homework assignment for you all by way of email, and that way we can see what information we can gather.
It looks like you're in a space capsule based on your photo with the stars in the background.
Yeah, well, I've been labeled as being out there, so to speak. So the background is appropriate at the moment. Yeah, the only thing you're missing is my friend's kitchen in the background at this point, which is, it's cute, but you know, that's about it. So did that kind of make a little bit of sense of what I was trying to track to with you all?
Sure, no problem.
Okay, good.
With me, I'm not speaking for Abby. I don't know.
No, that's okay. I see Abby nodding her head, but do you have any questions, Abby, or?
No, I just was doing a quick see a bunch of places that had Cannabis Advisory Commission.
Yeah, yeah, I tried. What I did was I went on to the Cannabis Commission website, and they have a listing of all the different facilities that are out there and where they're located. So I had them, I ran the report by geography and distance. And so I just started looking like, oh, okay, there's one for Wellfleet. There's a second one for Wellfleet. There's the third one, you know, and just said, okay, fine, that passes the criteria. You know, the list, like I say, I mean, it's decent. It's not all encompassing. You know, but again, some of the ones that I thought were bigger that might be more productive are, you know, places like Taunton, Boston, Cambridge. Worcester will be a really good one. Northampton. Unfortunately, you know, it would, like I said, though, once we kind of figure out how we want to assign it, it's going to be up to you to navigate the system of getting hold of town administration, then working your way through it to that correct person, then see what they all have available. Hopefully by doing that, you know, it's like, it's a fishing expedition. Hopefully we'll catch something in the process. The time is 1:18. Do you have anything, either of you?
What,
No.
what are we going to do with Dan? He's on the agenda to do something. right?
Yeah, he was going to talk to us on a little bit more official basis about what some of his thoughts were in terms of doing a cannabis business or two on the island at this point. To be able to do that, we're also going to have to look at changing, if that's going to take place, have to be something that have to be brought before town meeting to change both the zoning bylaw as well as general bylaw that governs the, you know, anything that's related to marijuana. So, but before we went too far with it, I wanted him to really talk to you on a slightly more official basis about what his thoughts were. I know he's done some research, and I would like him to share that with us as well too.
But aren't the dispensaries tied to a percentage? And I can't remember, 20% of the liquor licenses
Right,
on the island.
right. I
So
think it's
that's-
something like
that's a
that. I don't,
hurdle. Unless we turn out a lot more alcoholic licenses, that'll be a hurdle.
well, either that or you change,
Yes,
you
change
change
it.
the upper number, which is how many, you know, the percentage.
Yeah, and that could be whatever we want it to be, whatever we can
Correct.
convince
Well,
town to do.
it'd be whatever the town wants it to be.
Yes. We've convinced them of what it ought to be, if it should go up. That's a question, should it go up on a percentage basis?
Right, and that would definitely be in the form of a warrant article that, you know, if we were going to do something, but you know, you have to look at it from the standpoint of there's a lot more cannabis related industries opening up, like delivery, for example, social consumption, which we never thought would see the light of day, and there it is, it's starting to happen. So, you know, at least as an advisory commission, that I view is right in our bailiwick here to be able to move that forward. Again, the Board of Selectmen would have to, you know, be amenable toward adopting that as well. But given how the industry is expanding, and I know Joe, I could see Joe saying, well, yes and no.
Well,
But it's expanding into different areas.
My position is that I don't care how it's expanding, nobody's making any money in these companies. I mean, it's ugly. Really ugly. And I
Yeah.
don't see how it's going to get turned around quickly. Investors are going to stop putting money in. That's what'll happen, and the companies will start folding. But even if we're down to a handful of large companies, the biggest problem they have are the illegal sales. That's not going away.
No, I don't think it's going to go away, but you're right. I think everyone saw Mecca when this first started, and then all of a sudden the realities of what we're going to come out of it started to happen as well too. People were like, I can still grow my own stuff. You know.
Yeah, well, I not too long ago, I saw this thing about NBA is allowing their players to invest in these companies, and I'm thinking, great, that's where they ought to be putting their millions of dollars, because it's going right down the sewer. It's terrible. You keep reading this stuff and you say, what a great industry, growing industry. Let's invest. We got to look at what in the world you're investing in. There'll be winners. There obviously will be winners, but
yeah,
can you pick them?
Abby.
I think the only way that will end up becoming viable financially is if the barriers are.
I'm sorry, your audio keeps breaking up, dear.
Can you hear me?
Got it. We're good now.
I was saying, I think the only way it can become viable financially is if the federal barriers are removed. Because that's where that will be the only thing that will really de-incentivize the illegal sales, and also will bring down some of the costs, like the banking costs, some of those things. And I think that until that happens, that's going to be the struggle. Now, I do think that will eventually happen, but I think until you get to that place, that's going to be your biggest barrier.
Hmm. No, I would agree with you at this point. It would certainly turn the tide on a lot of things, and God only knows what's going through people's minds. I think it's going to boil down to a function of either critical mass.
Mhm.
In other words, a high degree of states have adopted it and have legalized and said we're good to go. Or it's just the industry will start to fall apart, and that'll be the end of that. So I don't know. It's certainly interesting to see where it's going to head. But yeah, I think that the linchpin here is definitely getting the federal government to just declassify the schedule, and that would change so many things.
The issue is, what's the long-term effect on people that are using marijuana? And I don't know if there are any really definitive, well-done studies on this. And part of the problem is that
No, you can't get federal funding to do a
that's
study.
exactly
So-
right.
How can
Mhm.
you study the effects? Because you can't get any money to do it.
Right. I think it was the University of Mississippi is allowed to sell product for research purposes. That just got enacted several months ago. So you don't have any really good data to look at.
No,
Yeah. It's a good point. I mean, but that's interesting that maybe that is part of the angle where if the marijuana lobby was smart, that maybe they would go after the angle to try and get it in with research and then expand it out. Like start small and try and get it legalized federally for research purposes, so at least you could get data. And then if the data demonstrates, for instance, that it isn't harmful, then that could be the tool that you would be able to then lobby the federal government to decriminalize it across the board.
Mm,
It's a big if, but it could be the one A, because I think it would be hard to just go in and say like decriminalize it. But if you use that and you have the data, it would be easier to do it that way. I mean, that's what I would do.
you're elected.
We do a lot of lobbying. I work at a bank.
Mm,
And also then they would be able to work with banks and get funding, which is a huge
Yeah.
area too.
Yeah, you got to wonder how many dollars are scraped off the table and not reported, because it's an all cash business. It's
Yeah, they have to
crazy.
pay security, storage, all of those
Oh.
things, cash heavy businesses, and also because banks are moving away from cash heavy business. So then I think the costs go up as well because there's less availability. So, if they need Brinks trucks, like Brinks knows what's coming. So Brinks is probably scaling back on their trucks anyway. So it just ends up being a cycle.
It'll take a long time, I'm afraid. I don't think it'll happen overnight.
No, I would agree. But I do think that the smart way would be to start with the medical. And I think that was originally how people started.
That's right.
mhm.
But I mean, on the federal level, I think that's the smartest way because we've seen that's the only model that works.
On the other hand, think of the billions of dollars that have been spent to get people to stop smoking cigarettes.
Right, but it's worked in reality because if you look at the amount of people who smoke versus 3 decades ago, the number has plummeted. But there was a two-pronged approach. It was education and then it was taxes. And again, I think the government, if they realize and they were able to tax all the product across the board, they would do it because they're gonna get money.
And
But
I know, but that's half of the story, because the other half of the story is, while the government is collecting all this money, enormous amounts of money, are we doing any damage to the people that are buying these products? And what
You
will
know,
that cost?
really care
What will
about
that cost down the road for the federal government? Medicare, Medicaid, 40 years from now? I don't know. I have no idea.
yeah, but I think, but then that goes back to the argument where you could argue, well, we need to do properly funded research to find that out. And the only way to do that is to decriminalize it so that we can do federal studies to understand the impacts.
Mm,
Because we could look at European data, but it's not American data. But I mean, I think it goes back to the same concept of,
Well, I just sent out, I think today, a study that was done in Denmark, along with one of the US agencies. And those results, that were not good. And they covered a lot of years and a lot of people. And apparently there's some damage that's done by long-term frequent use of marijuana.
mhm.
And so you got to be careful about what that all means. I mean, if somebody has a marijuana cigarette once a week, is that frequent? I doubt it. I mean, if they have a couple, one for breakfast, one for lunch, and one for dinner, I think that'd be frequent.
well, and I mean, the reality is probably smoking anything, whether it's marijuana,
Yeah, it's going to be a
it's
negative.
gonna be clear they're not good. But then that could be part of the argument of expanding the edible market, the, you know, the other types of products of how it's absorbed. So,
And I think the point that's been made from the articles that I see recently is that THC content has really gone up from what it used to be 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And so smoking one of those powerful THC cigarettes is far more damaging than what people were smoking 20 years ago.
exactly, but again, it'd be great to have the data and the studies
Yeah.
to show that, like, what are the, and again, if it's legalized, that then you have professionals that would help you understand, like, what are the quantities people should be using, right?
Yeah. Well, it won't matter to me. I won't be around 20 years from today. So, and I'm off any kind of medication. I don't want anything, including marijuana. But I happen to be on the marijuana committee. People ask me about it. I say, yeah, well, we test them all at every meeting.
No, it's ironic. Yes, I know. I think the information.
No, anyways.
But I'm still blasting this stuff out.
No, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I do read it, Joe. I do read it. I appreciate it. I read the couple articles, the one you had sent about weeks about the NBA and how the position also is at odds when we were talking about with China. Like, there's a lot of interesting international implications.
Yeah, it's
A
important.
lot of the
I think
Asian
it's,
countries are fairly strict with.
and
illegal-
China in particular was not happy about that arrangement.
I'm sure Russia's not either. Like, you know,
There are a number of European countries that have basketball teams, and they can't be too happy about this either.
yeah.
But China's big.
More importantly, is it's a terrible investment for players, and so that's also the big concern. Is like, we shouldn't be encouraging bad investments.
Well, on the other hand, you could say not a bad idea to collect that money and get it back into the system. But it's terrible. I mean, to have somebody, as this one person said, it'd be a great investment for these NBA players. And I'm thinking, this lady that has no idea what she's talking about.
Yeah,
Just look at the numbers, and you don't ever see in the common press anything about the financial performance of these companies. It's always how great the tax recovery is. And we're moving ahead on getting more and more states to accept it as okay. And nobody talks about the other side of it.
no, I think it's a good point because I come at it from the same sides you do of fiscal responsibility, and I 100% agree that it's pretty clear that as an investment, like we evaluate types of firms to invest in all the time, and that it's just not it's not something we would condone or advise anyone to invest in. In the
Right.
fact that someone like that says that is troubling, just because it wouldn't be a prudent way to invest there.
Yep.
Um, so are you going to keep meeting, or do we? I'm just
Uh,
asking.
I think what Barry's doing is seeing if he can stir somebody up. Otherwise, this will be another non-meeting. And as I've said earlier, I'm for folks that don't want to attend, that's okay. They ought to go do something else, and we ought to find people that have an interest in what's going on here. Maybe we could find out what happened at this MMA conference on April 6th. Barry might know something about it. The other thing, Abby, is we're coming to the end of the 5-year agreements, which means we have to get these things re-upped. And it's on the agenda, Nantucket Community Host Agreements. And I don't know exactly when they expire. I thought one was expiring about now and another one within the year. But there's some terms in there that really need to come out because they're not acceptable, like $10,000 for the scholarship fund. I mean, if one of these firms wants to do that, they can, but it shouldn't be in their agreement that they have to.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
And there's the other agreement, and I don't remember which is which since there are two of them. The other agreement where they had to pay $50,000 to do the parking lot. Well, we're not going to do that again in the next 5-year agreement. And I don't know what you do about that. The money was spent a long time ago. It's gone.
Yeah,
I guess we just forget it and go forward.
yeah, I agree. I don't think there's a.
There was also a meeting with the town manager on April 18th. Maybe we can get that information from Barry, at least get some. We're not going to make any decisions since we don't have a quorum, but we might find something out before we hang up.
Get us there.
Sorry, guys, I got Dorothy here is having significant computer problems trying to get in. I'm gonna try one other thing with her.
What,
on.
Barry,
Yeah,
if that doesn't work out and we can't have a quorum, can we learn something about the MMA conference, April 6th? Did you
yeah,
attend it?
give me just a minute.
That's fine.
Forward each, send. I'm gonna resend this to you right now. And hopefully you should have it. Yes, no, maybe. Okay. Oh, I don't care about the doc. I mean, the only thing I need you to do is to get into that join Zoom link. No, you don't need to be in the document. You can get, you can run it off. I always put it on the main page as well. You got the email and it should say next Cannabis Advisory Committee, and down below it should say download and import meeting ID. Join Zoom meeting. Use that. Don't go into the document. She may have fouled the document somehow. So even if you're just yeah, I'm sorry. But at some point, if you want, I will, I'll look at it and see if I can figure it out. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, thanks. All right, bye-bye.
No luck?
No luck. I wound up resending her the email as well.
It opened right up.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Click on
I've got 5 of you here who have all used the same hyperlink. So there's something going on with her computer that I cannot diagnose. And, I tried to explain to her a few different ways to access it. And she's saying it's still not working. So I don't know what's going on at this point. I at that juncture, I need to be on their computer.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because if 5 people can get on,
I agree.
I don't mind doing IT support on the side, but it's a gratis thing that goes on anyways. All right, so are we good? Do you want to get rolling at this point?
I don't know if Abby is on or not on.
And lost her video.
Oh,
Oh, there she
there she
is.
is.
Look at you.
Oh, she's eating lunch.
What
That's
did you
why
make for
she's-
lunch for us?
No, I'm just eating chips. That's
Oh,
fine.
there you go. Do you guys want to call it?
Sure.
right.
What I was gonna say is there anything that came out of the conference that would be worthwhile noting?
That was just more information.
Okay,
It was them, Mass Municipal was trying to look at what the future was going to happen with the Cannabis Control Commission in terms of certain things going up. And the session was not as productive. If you went onto their website, you can see where they're trying to head to. But a lot of it was just, it was almost about an hour and a half of complaining about things.
I see.
So it was not what I would have called a productive meeting. The best thing that may have come out of that one was to break out the crackers and cheese.
That's what Abby did.
And I don't think I need to explain that further.
I love
Uh,
cheese and crackers.
What's that there?
I love cheese and crackers.
You like, good. We'll make that happen.
And the meeting with the town manager, anything out of that?
I would probably prefer that that we're in
Got it.
quorum status for that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you all. You guys are troopers, and I love you staying involved with things, and we'll get there.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
I know.
Bye.
Bye-bye.